But you have to appreciate those things because when you see someone that's really getting after it, you have to forget about your old life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to surround your people with people like Jaron who sees the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like, and that are really trying to, you're really getting after your goals, brother. You know what I mean? Like, and if ain't nobody else gonna tell you, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? I give you flowers while you're here.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. I am your host, Jaron Bingham. Everybody knows that the Cover2Cover Podcast is a podcast in which we jump about books, all different types of books, self-help, fiction, fantasy, the whole nine. And so, forgive me, I'm a little bit, I've taken a couple of shots because I got a very enabling guest with me today.
Hey.
But in today's episode, we discuss The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, the original 1926 classic. In the early 1920s, George S. Clason wrote a collection of parables set in ancient Babylon that provided guidance of one's financial well-being. These parables were distributed as pamphlets to U.S. banking and insurance customers and were so well received by the public that in 1926, the parables were collected into one volume under the title of his most famous story, The Richest Man in Babylon. Largely seen as a classic in personal finance advice, The Richest Man in Babylon has provided millions with guidance and inspiration for financial wellness. So in today's book, I am very fortunate to kick it off with one of my culinary brothers. He knows my culinary skills are a little bit more expertise than his. But no, my all good around friend, my guy, Alvin Harris. Young Al, or should I call you Chip? What
a Chip, man. You know, we were family right now, man.
Okay, young Chip. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good, man. You know.
Done finally got you on the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
When did I introduce this to you? Like a couple of months ago or so?
Yeah, you know, we always been people who've been outside of our actual jobs and, you know, just trying to talk about what it is that we see ourselves doing in the foresee future, how we're going to get there, and how that just all makes sense. So it's always a pleasure seeing you come into work, and, you know, we always talk shit and do what we do, you know what I mean? But it's always an uplifting thing between us, you know what I mean? Which makes me more excited about being here, though.
Most definitely, man. Well, of course, man, I appreciate you, extending the offer and coming to sit down and talk with me. And even bigger than that, the recommendation of the book. I already said we are discussing The Richest Man in Babylon. And so, like I ask every guest, the very first question, what made you choose this book?
Man. Forgive me, I have been drinking. This is it's a touchy subject for me, right? So my Uncle Daryl, who passed a few years back, he pushed this book on me.
Yeah.
He was a big reader, and, you know, like when I was younger, you know, I took a road that was harder traveled than most.
Okay.
Right? And, you know, fast money, fast cars, fast life. And he was an advocate of me slowing down and looking towards the future. So thank you, Uncle Daryl. Rest in peace. I love you, brother. Your birthday's coming up soon. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you, brother. You know, so it was my Uncle Daryl.
Uncle Daryl. Okay, cool. So for the reader out there, or the listener out there who's listening, The Richest Man in Babylon is a collection, excuse me, shout out to tequila.
Yeah.
It's a collection of parables that takes place in ancient Babylon. And essentially the main character that we're following is a man named Arkad. Arkad has a very rags to riches story, and we kind of see people interact with him. He's also been summoned to teach citizens within Babylon the ways to acquire wealth. And so with that, we're going to jump right into question number 2. And so we're going to do a question or an answer for an answer. But the question that I have for you, my good friend, the book, in the 4th parable, the king summoned Arkad to teach 100 men the 7 cures for a lean purse. These cures being, number 1, start thy purse to fattening. Number 2, control thy expenditures. Number 3, make thy gold multiply. Number 4, guard thy treasure from loss. Number 5, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Number 6, ensure a future income. And number 7, increase thy ability to earn. 2 questions within that. Which cure has benefited you the most, and which cure has challenged you the most?
Shit. So the first part of that question, I would say, is control thy expenditures. It is.
I laugh because that's mine.
Man, you know what I mean? Like it's been a blessing and a curse. More so of a lifesaver, though, right? Because in today's society, we get caught up in what we look like and what we should look like, you know what I mean? And the way that social media has been, you know what I mean? So now more so like I'll be 40 next week.
Okay. Shout out to the Big 4-0.
So we're
4-0.
looking at what means more to me now. You know what I mean? Like the wants and the needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And controlling thy expenditures talks to that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, stop buying that $400 or $500 pair of shoes or that $400 T-shirt and invest that. You know what I mean? Or save that, or look at something that's more long term. Because this book is really just based on, instead of looking at the right now, it pushes you to look deeper and further into life. You know what I mean? And you know the importance of vision boards and setting goals and setting dreams and actually acting towards those. So that would be mine. Is like cutting out the going out to eat as much and cooking at home. And even though right now it probably costs the same, you know, it's real out here now. But instead of me going to Gucci or whatever the case may be and taking it down to H&M or Zara, you know what I mean? Because that little extra dollar could go somewhere else. You know what I mean? That could change your narrative going into the future. You know what I mean? So, and I would say the second part would be making thy goal multiply.
Okay, yeah. That's the one that challenged you the most?
So why it challenges me the most is because I grew up in an age where I'm born in the 80s, right? Most of the 80s was crack epidemic, you know, they were crime on drugs, crime on war, and you know, they were pushing narratives to break up the black household, in my opinion, right? It was, you know what I mean? Like that's what it was.
A very true narrative, yes.
Exactly. So you see what I'm saying? Fathers going to prison, fathers on drugs, you know what I mean? And most of us grew up in single parent households, and most of my friends that are still my friends today, we had one thing in common. It was being raised by single black mothers. So with that being said, we really didn't have anybody to teach us anything better than fast money, fast life, right?
Yeah.
So we lost out on a lot of things, right? And also what comes back to that too is in that time, black people were heavy on pushing the Bible instead of teaching financial literacy.
It's funny. I mean, I laugh because I have a couple of Bible verses in some of my notes.
It talks true into that, though, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Proverbs teaches you all of that. So with that being said, it's like we didn't have the opportunity to learn what investing was. And to fast forward to today's time, it's we live in an informational world, right? Like information is at the tip of your fingertips. Like we jump on our phones, computers, laptops, we do whatever it is that we need to do. Like we can learn whatever it is at whatever moment it is that we want to learn something about, right?
Yeah.
So now when I look at making thy goal multiply, it's there for me. But there's still a fear though, because it's the unknown, right?
Yeah.
So tapping into a stock market or high yield savings account or anything that just coincides with that going on is still a fear. You know what I mean? Because for, let's say, 30 years of my life, it was always get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
So now you have to kind of shift, and you can't look at it as a right now thing, and it has to be more longevity in your dreams and goals.
You say 30 years, and you're about to approach 40. How difficult has it been to essentially shed 75% of your life's?
It's been extremely hard.
Yeah.
So like, you want to kind of like disassociate your past from your future now, meaning that we're looking at who do we hang around now? What type of circles? And in this information world, it talks about changing your circles, changing your environment, you know what I mean? And being around somebody that is more goal-driven and wanting to do things that the mind can't even fathom, opposed to people that haven't been out of 1 square mile radius of their actual neighborhood that they grew out of.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because a few of those characters like in the book that way. And essentially Arkad started that way because, and I'll dive into it deeper into the pod, but like Arkad got his wealth because he had associated himself with a moneylender who essentially was kind of giving him game over the past, few years that they had were working with each other. And so, so you said controlling that expenditures has been the one that benefited you the most.
Yes.
And making that goal multiply has been the one that's challenged you. To answer the question that I asked you, my challenge has been ensuring a future income, because I am not as adamant about stocks and investments and crypto as like my younger brothers are.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because my dad's a legit financial advisor. He has all like the licenses and everything. It's just crazy. I just don't, for whatever reason, I was just late to the party and just caring about my finances. But to speak on my challenge, as I get older now, you said you were about to turn 40. I just turned 34 a couple months ago. Like the older I get, the more I'm starting to desire the family, desire the children. And I understand that, with that comes provision.
With the legacy.
You know what I mean? And a legacy as well. And so I guess I'll jump right into I'm skipping the question, but I'm jumping right into it.
Now go to it, man. Let's tap in. This is a crazy book, man.
It's so like that was because I asked what which cures that we had, what's benefited us and what challenged us. I said ensuring a future income, and then I started right here. Therefore, do I say that it behooves a man to make preparation for a suitable income in the days to come when he is no longer young, and to make preparations for his family should he be no longer with them to support and comfort them. Then he goes on by saying, the man who, because of his understandings of the laws of wealth, acquiring a growth surplus, should give thought to those future days. He should plan certain investments or provisions that may endure safely for many years, yet will be available when the time arrives which he has so wisely anticipated. And like I said, for me, like it's interesting that you had mentioned crypto because, often the crypto conversation is still relatively new, 10, 20 years. And so with that kind of comes that fast money type of conversation that blends into it as well. And it's a point that you had said in terms of like the age of information that we're in now. My uncle always says that we are in the age of information and not the age of intelligence.
Exactly.
So there's a plethora of information in front of us, but the actual intelligence to, apply it to, your day-to-day practices or your business practices, that's where it kind of comes into where I like in the book, and you had said it too, growing up in those single-family households, you weren't taught certain things, especially financially. As we see in the book, those men who ultimately were wealthy had people that they were being taught under. In fact, like I said, like the king had told Arkad, go teach these men these things. And so I think that more so, and the reason I enjoy this podcast is because it presents, different books, because this is my first time ever hearing of this book until you have recommended it. But I would love to see the type of information and intelligence kind of align and be pushed more into our communities, especially our young Black communities, because the cycle of how long a Black dollar stays in the
it's like
in
30
the neighborhood
seconds.
it's something. Yeah,
oh my God,
it's something relatively ridiculous. But the thing
Jewish
is
dollar
like
too, like.
But it's when the Bible says my people perish for a lack of knowledge, that's ultimately what it's talking about. If you don't, if you knew better, you do better. And
no,
so,
for sure. No. And that's what it gets to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, also too, the cure of my benefit was controlling the expenditures.
Okay.
And I'll jump on page 31 and read whatever I had excerpt there. He says, confuse not thy necessary expenses with thy desires. Budget then thy necessary expenses. Touch not the 1/10 that is fattening thy purse. 1/10 being what he told him to ultimately to break away. Let this be done. Let this be thy great desire, that it is being fulfilled. Keep working with thy budget. Keep adjusting it to help. Keep adjusting it to help thee. Make it the first assistant in defending thy fattening purse. That's just a small little excerpt, but just even from there, when he sits back and says, let budgeting be your great desire, keep working the budget. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be something where you set up and you can run it for the rest of the year. You're going to have to continue to keep tweaking.
Do it. You have to.
And so the thing that I appreciate about this book is its emphasis on being consistent with it, even in the times of uncomfort.
That is the perfect word. Consistency.
So let's go ahead and jump into question number 3, my man.
Okay.
The book dispenses financial advice through 11 parables set in ancient Babylon. Which parable resonated with you the most?
So I come from a background of cooking, right? And the reason that I have a background in cooking is because of the choices I made earlier on in life, right? So getting into the restaurant world was easier because of the downfalls that I had in my earlier life, right? They don't do the background checks. They don't do none of that shit. You see what I'm saying? So it's easier to get into the field of hospitality than it is anything else, right?
Yeah.
So I have 2 stories that are that resonate with me the most, right?
Okay, well, both
the
of them.
first one is Kobe. You know what I mean? Like, Kobe was a musician, and he didn't know how to get to the next level in life, right? He was a paycheck to paycheck type of guy. And
we're talking Kobe in the book, yeah.
Yeah, Kobe in the book, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it still resonates though, right? Yeah. So Kobe in the book lived paycheck to paycheck, right? And he wanted more for himself, right? So with that, he was kind of seeking out a mentor, someone that can help him become the best version of himself, right? And then he ran into Akbar, right? So that was a beautiful story because then he started learning lessons. He started applying them. There was no fear. There was no doubt with Kobe, right? But then you have Banshir, who, on the other hand, who had this blooming business at one point, and he didn't want to take those lessons. And because he didn't take those lessons, he stayed stuck. And I think that most of us can resonate more with Banshir than we can with Kobe, right? And the reason we can resonate with him more is out of fear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the unknown that that sits with more people than actually letting go and this trying something. You know what I mean? And whether it hurts you or harm you, like, what is the saying? Like, it's better to try something and fail than it is to not try something at all. And that's who Kobe was. He'd rather try and fail and become better than not try at all.
Yeah.
Banshir was, guess what? I'm not doing none of this shit.
Yeah.
I'm good, bro. Like, I got my chariots, you know what I mean? Like, I'm rolling, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't thinking about nothing that you got to offer me. And he was stagnant.
Yeah.
There was nothing longevity about what he had except that he was just putting all his chips in one basket to where, oh, I got these chariots, you know what I mean? Like, and we just gonna roll these horses and, you know. That's it. We good. You know what I mean? Like, we're not looking at nothing else past that. You know what I mean? So I would say Kobe, the musician, is hands down my favorite character.
Okay.
He found someone who taught him better because that person knew better. And he knew that this was for the best of his life.
Yeah.
And once again, it goes back into consistency and longevity, taking that fear out of your heart and just doing what you know is the right thing to do instead of trying to look for that quick buck.
Yeah. So that's mine kind of segues into this kind of the same principles. My favorite parable, so for those out there, one of the Richest Man in Babylon, one of the parables is actually titled The Richest Man in Babylon, which is my favorite parable within the book because of a lot of the reasons that you had laid out with Kobe. The Richest Man in Babylon kind of starts and shows Arcade's entire life at a certain point. So ultimately, Arcade is approached by certain friends, and the friends ask him, like, hey, we grew up in the same neighborhood. We had the same education. Why are you so much more wealthier than us? And so then Arcade kind of goes into this deep story on kind of where he started to separate himself. And so he started out as a laborer who ended up kind of just molding the tablets for the city of Babylon. And then one day, Algamish, who was a money lender, ended up kind of crossing his path. And so he asked Algamish, well, how can I become wealthy like you? And Algamish says very blatantly at one point, saying, pay yourself first.
That's it.
And so he's like, you'll buy the shoes, you'll buy the clothes, you'll buy, put all the money in the entertainment and all those things, but you don't pay yourself first. Why do you do that? And so he tells him that, and then they kind of go their separate ways, and Algamish revisits again a year later. Well, Arcade had been paying himself, but he ended up giving his money to, I forgot who he mentioned. He ended up giving his money to a brick maker to go make an investment. So then Algamish chastises Arcade and says, why would you expect a brick maker to go give you money for, go multiply your money with jewels?
Right.
Why didn't you just give it to a jeweler? And so
cut the middleman out.
Essentially, when we talk about, that age of information and intelligence and investing, why are you going to go to somebody else who's not truly wrapped up in finances to not discuss your finances in great detail? And so that was one of the points that I got with that I really enjoyed. So again, that's what Algamish chastises Arcade on. So then another year goes by. He does the same thing. He puts 1/10 of what he earns to the side. He comes back and Algamish visits him again and says, what happened? Tell me what's up with your money. He comes and he says he basically ate it all away and blew it in entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so then Algamish is just kind of like, do you really want what you claim that you want? Which again is another thing that a lot of people struggle with is, you claim this financial freedom or you want to be financially stable, but how consistently are you staying on top of that? So then Algamish goes away again and doesn't return for another 2 years. But at this point, Arcade he's understood he's acquired the discipline. He hadn't made bad investments. In fact, some of the investments that he made has come back and made him money. And so what happens from there is Algamish is like, you've done such a good job, especially over the span of 4 years. I've seen you make your mistakes. I've seen you not give up despite the mistakes that have been made. And so with that, I'm getting older as a gentleman. I can't handle this business as much as I want to. From that standpoint, I don't trust it to give it. He says, I don't trust to give it to my own sons.
Exactly.
He's like, but I've seen the discipline, the work that you put in over the years. I'm going to give it to you in that. As soon as that message hit me, I thought of a Bible verse, which I had jotted down, Proverbs 22:29, that says, do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. And so it was Arcade who sat back and, for a lot of people, a year is just the longest time ever in the history of the world.
For sure, yeah.
But if we're going to play the long game, then we have to think, okay, I have to put aside 1/10 essentially for the rest of my life. So I might as well start getting comfortable with it right now.
Right now.
And that type of comfort amid those standards that you set within those cells, those restrictions, is ultimately what the great men see and are willing to invest. Because, I mean, I could throw some more. I'm going to throw another Bible verse at you. I told you I had some with you.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me then. You know what I mean? Because I'm ready. You know what I mean? I pay tithes. You know what I mean? Like, because my riches aren't here.
Yeah.
They in the kingdom. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Let's go.
Yeah, we changing lives and we've seen people in the church.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
my grandmother going to love this
is a real book. You know what I mean? Yeah. She going to love this one? Yeah.
But so back to the Arcad and the Algamish relationship, another Bible verse that I thought of was Luke 16:10 that says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So essentially the onus is on you.
Yes.
If you want to be trusted with somebody else's money, what does your money look like then?
Right.
And that's ultimately what it boils down to is how do you discipline yourself to not spend frivolously? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you make wise and sound investments? Like those types of things, of course, like a credit score, it follows you. It shows the path of your investments and the path of your spending. But yeah, I mean, that was my favorite one because I like to see the rags to riches stories, if you will. And so the book starts off with just spewing on how great Arcad is. And so when you fall into that parable, which is, I think it's like the 5th parable in there, you are able to understand, okay, he's rich because he's able to discipline himself. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Discipline and consistency. If you stay committed, you stay disciplined, and you are extremely committed to your purpose, whatever it is in life, that the outcome will be your income.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, even though this is a fictional book, right? I can tie this book into the 48 Laws of Power. I can tie this book into the Art of War. I can tie this book into the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're parables, right? You can put it into a bag and shake it up, and guess what? You can become whatever you want to be. And guess what? This is the greatest country in the world, right? Because you can go from nothing and be something.
Yeah.
There's only 2 things that make you not become something. It's consistency and discipline.
Let's go ahead and jump on this 4th question, man. Let's see, where are we? So it's 10 years ago, and you're talking to your younger self about this book. Which parable would you immediately recommend you to read?
So 10 years ago, man. The boy was wild, you know what I mean? Fast money, fast cars. And now who I am today, sitting in front of you, like, I look at it as the fruit of my labor, kind of, right? So, like, it would be the start of thy purse fattening, right? So I was baptized with my fiance over there. We decided to get baptized together March 3rd, 2024, right? Give our lives over to Christ and, and just allow everything that we do from this moment forward to be in his hands, right? So in order for that to happen, we have to tithe, right?
Yeah.
You know what tithing is? It's the same 10% that you're doing with this in your own world. You know what I mean? The only thing is you're creating your own fortunes in the afterlife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I can commit that to a higher being, why can't I do that in the flesh right now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whether that 10% comes into a high-yielding savings account or I give it to God, that is the one thing that I would tell myself, that 10% don't mean shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you working at McDonald's and your check is $500. You know what I mean? You're going to go spend that 10%, $50 on some weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Guilty.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this, it resonates so much. It's not even that, though. Like, you going to buy a new pair of shoes. Guess what? That 10% could go put into something else. It was something that was said to me, and don't hold me to it, right? Like, it's like we go and we buy the latest Apple phone, right? that Apple phone is $1,200-$1,300, right? If you take that $1,200-$1,300, or even just 10% of that, which is
120,
$110, $130, right? Guess what? You go put that into an Apple stock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your money folds over. We're so, excuse me. And I say we, right? We are caught up in the right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting that on everybody. Don't think that, because there's people that have learned different life lessons along this road. Me, Jaren, my lady, my homeboys back home, right? We're quick to put money in Jordan's pockets. We're quick to buy the new Mercedes. We were quick to go to Gucci, Louis. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're quick to put our money somewhere else.
We're quick to put our money in our vices. Like you said, I mean, I spent some.
It's
so much money
ridiculous.
on weed last year, bro.
But the crazy part is just because you think that you're quitting that vice on spending money, like, you're gonna go pick up another one.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, right? But if you create healthy habits, right?
That's what it is.
Like, that's where things start to change for you.
Yeah.
Right? So what? Last check was 2 bands, right? I take 10%, 200, go put it into a stock. Or put it in the savings. You know what I mean? Like, I'm about to get married soon. So, how I'm talking that word.
Shout out Black Love.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, every last one of these dollars count. You know what I mean? Like, she ain't cheap. Come on. You see what I'm saying? Like,
shout out Black Love.
We know that, and I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable right now, right? Like, 1-bedroom apartment, 2 Mercedes, like, we're caught up in that.
Yeah.
Right? But we also know right now that we don't want to go spend 6 figures on a wedding and walk back into that apartment.
Yeah, that's real. That's growth.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, some shit has to go.
Yeah.
Right now. Like, it has to. You know what I mean? Like, and we have to be a team. We have to understand, like, what our wants and needs are. You know what I mean? Which is so amazing about this book, though. You know what I mean?
Because even as you sit back and say not wanting to walk into an apartment, insinuating that you want to walk into a house, that's one of the cures.
That's one of the cures.
The 6 cures, like, get your own house.
Get your own house.
Because, I mean, that's the most common way for wealth building.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And it is something that she's ventured into in real estate. I'm tapping into right now.
Yeah.
But you want to own. You want that residual income, where that passive income, when you're sleeping, guess what?
Yeah.
You're making money. We have to get back to investing in not fuck all that investing. We have to find out how to learn ourselves.
Yeah.
What is it that we actually want out of fucking life, bro?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's it, man. Like, what means the most to you?
Yeah.
And that's why this book just is personal to me. You know what I mean? Even though I caught it late, and I reacted on it late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there go my 2 inconsistencies right there. It was, I caught it late and I learned it late. You know what I mean? So now I'm playing catch up.
Well, I mean, props to you for that self-awareness, and then also, I mean, props to now making that change, because even then, like, as you say that, I remember a couple of parables where certain people were asking Arcad, well, I'm too late in the game, and Arcad was just kind of like, wherever your energy is, that's a joint can multiply.
It's never too late to start something new.
Yeah.
It's never too late. I think at one point in time, like, the most millionaires in this country didn't start until after their 40s.
Yeah. The average millionaire right now is, I think, in between the ages of 57 or 63, one of those things. But it's it goes back to that long game, because I'm sure for the majority of them, when they were in their 30s, they envisioned the 50s,
right?
They envisioned the 60s. It wasn't this like, well, let me see if I can turn this $300 into $300,000 in the next 2 days.
Yeah, fuck your parlays. That's mine in particular, though. You know what I mean?
Well, you better put my editor to work, yo.
Jay, who you thought you was bringing up here today? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man.
Well, man, I want to answer the question I gave you. If I found myself some 10 years ago and ended up giving them this book, the parable that I would give them is the last parable, actually, the luckiest man in Babylon. And to kind of run that story and what it all entails is it follows. So you have this man named Sharu who is on this caravan with Hadan. And so Sharu's leading the caravan. He's taking it to Babylon. Hadan is the grandson of Sharu's deceased partner. But both of them were very wealthy men, and, you know what I'm saying, like they were them niggas in Babylon. So as they're headed to Babylon, Hadan is asking, teach me the ways of like how you guys became so rich and so successful. And so Saru kind of goes into this story. He says, I was a slave for several years. Your grandfather was a slave. And the way we worked ourselves out, let me pull up I had notated page 107. He's in this character. He's telling Hadan the story about when they were slaves. And as he's telling the story, Saru is saying, I was in the back of this caravan, my own caravan as a slave, and we're headed to Babylon. And he was talking to one of these individuals. And he says, I'm trying to pronounce the name, Megiddo. Megiddo felt he's talking to Megiddo in the back of the caravan. Megiddo felt that we would soon part. They're about to be sold as slaves. When no buyers were near, he talked to me earnestly to impress upon me how valuable work would be to me in the future. Some men hate it. They make it their enemy. Better to treat it like a friend. Make thyself like it. Don't mind because it's hard. If thou thinkest about what a good house thou build, then who cares if the beams are heavy, and it is far from the well to carry from the water to the plaster. Promise me, boy, if thou get a master, work for him as hard as thou can. If he does not appreciate all that do, then never mind. Remember, work well done does good to the man who does it. It makes him a better man. And so, another passage, but in that, Saru is telling Hadan essentially about the value of work.
Yep.
And the ability to just fall in love with that. I mean, it's again, we often get caught up in the passive income, which trust me, as a nigga who's trying to build it himself, I understand.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I also understand that I'm going to be, my grandfather, I think I may have said this story on this podcast, but we operate a Christian camp back down in Mississippi, 150 acres. And my grandfather, when he was the director of it, like HNIC called all the shots. Hundreds of kids would come to this camp, do this, that, and the third, but he would still hop on that on the riding lawnmower and mow the whole camp. And so it was one of those things where, like, well, if the man up top will get down and do the dirty work, then ultimately isn't that what it's about? Isn't it about, just being consistent and loving the fact that you are able to cultivate it on so many different levels, which was the reason that it was kind of a very subconscious way for me to attract the value of work. So as Saru is telling Hadan this story, he also, like I said, he reveals to Hadan that your grandfather also was once a slave, to which Hadan just gets very upset about. But he was like, he was a slave only in terms of optics, not necessarily in terms of, his grandfather didn't think he was a slave.
No, he didn't think,
because
he
was,
and he went into his own thing to create his own destiny.
And so it's, I just went through, man, and underlined so many different points and notated so many points in this book.
I'm glad you like this book, bro. Like,
because
this shit, man.
Yeah, man, because it's such an easy and an inspirational read,
man,
but it's such a practical read at the same time from a financial standpoint.
Into today's life.
Yeah, and it's it ain't nothing new under the sun. What's what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's like, so one of the things that he had told Hadan near the end of the book, he said, my willingness to work enabled me to escape from being sold to join the slave gangs upon the walls. It also impressed thy grandfather. He selected me as his partner. And to go off of a quick tangent of that, basically what ended up happening to Saru, after he was into slavery, he met Hadan's grandfather, who was a slave. Ultimately, Hadan's grandfather becomes so rich and successful that he's out of slavery. Saru kind of has to continue to go through it. But when Saru and Haddan's grandfather had linked as slaves. Saru had kind of just given him just like that motivational speech and just like practical conversation with him that ended up pushing him to that next step. So again, first off, you never know who you're gonna come in contact with.
You never know.
So always just be generous and genuine in general. And secondly,
love thy brother.
And then secondly, man, it's Saru, even with everything that he went up against, he still fell in love with work. And I'm gonna go on a quick tangent, and I may have referenced this pastor on several occasions, Dr. Miles Monroe, Bohemian pastor. He talks about the difference between your job and your work. He says your job is something that you can be fired from. People can hire you. Other people dictate your job. Well, he says as your work is your gift. That's what God has blessed you with. You cultivate that with your discipline and your efforts, and nobody can take your gift away from you. And so as I understand that concept of work and tie it into the luckiest man in Babylon and the lesson that Saru was giving Haddan, that's ultimately kind of like, even as I tip my hat to you, because you culinarily, dog, you are just like, you found your niche, you're in it, like stay consistent in your work because that is your gift. And again, nobody's going to take your gift away from you. And like when I go back to the biblical verse that I reference, your work is going to put you in front of kings. It's not going to put you in front of unknown men.
For sure.
And so that is what Saru ultimately told Haddan, this is how we became wealthy. We became wealthy because we fell in love with the day-to-day, being a good overall. I have a saying that I say all the time is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yep.
And so good financial restrictions and discipline makes you a better person because it makes you more conscious of the day that is in front of you. And, you know, you also kind of have to have that good balance of being present in the day and also forecasting the weeks, the months. You got a wedding coming up, so you gotta have to map out, you know what I'm saying, those types of things. And so, but again, if we go back to Arkad and Algamish in that story, we see that Algamish trusted this man because this man had his personal discipline with money was almost formidable. And so, you know what I'm saying, like it just makes you a more trustworthy person.
No, for sure. But then that's also where it also ties in to understand people that want more for themselves and identifying them from the people that are content with what they have going on in life.
Yeah.
That's how I work in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Like I know who want more for themselves. I know who's content with the lifestyle that they're already living. You know what I mean?
The crazy thing is though, man, it took me some time to gather this as well, but it legitimately is the mindset.
It is.
You know what I mean? Because
that's what separates us.
And I had a conversation with somebody in the kitchen, and I told him, I was like, you look at a certain position as if it is insignificant. I know what you're talking about, right? And I'm like, dog, the first thing people do when they sit down and like unroll their silverware, if they see a smudge on that, bro, like.
You are the most important person in the kitchen.
You are, regardless of how much you.
Yep. No, literally. Like,
and so that's what I was telling him. I was like, you have to find the value first in yourself, and then in the things that you do. And so from there, that's
how you build the foundation.
Yeah.
Bro. Like that's
because
where you find your purpose.
The circumstances around you, you'll never be able to control them. You can only control what's within.
Exactly.
And so if you can control what's within, then you're better prepared for those circumstances that come around you because you know who you are.
Exactly. You know where you come from.
And you know where you are.
You know what's crazy is?
What's up?
When I first decided that I really wanted to do this cooking shit, you know what my job was?
What's up?
I washed fucking dishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Nonstop. But I understood the importance of it though. And even though my eyes got bigger and I saw where I could go, you know what I mean? Like, all right, well, nigga, work twice as hard.
Yeah.
Knock out these dishes fast, go over here and mess with them.
Yeah.
Have them teach me something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
man, I need to find a quote that it was because Arkad, when Arkad was telling the people about how he got his money, they had said, well, surely it was fortune. He said, fortune only in that I had a desire to prosper before I met Algamish. And so, again, like you said, it's on me.
It's on me.
It's on me. And
but that's what I appreciate about you, though, right? Because, like, I see you at work, and even though I give you shit all the time, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot to appreciate about you, Jay, right? Like, you come in, you do your job, and you're doing your other job, what your passion is,
Yeah.
what you want to be, where you want to go. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I lose myself because you see me like I'm locked in. You know what I mean? Like, you get busy. You know what I mean? Like, however that situation looks. You know what I mean? Like, I still have to get this done. You know what I mean? But then, like, I still find myself confined in, like, man, I need to get some sleep because I got to turn around and do this again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and then I'm waking up in the morning, get ready to do this when I knew I could have woke up an hour earlier, because the first thing I do is, this nigga at the gym. God damn, man. Man. What time you get out of here last night? 2? Instagram, this nigga at the gym at 5:48. Damn, man, I'm playing around. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Hit you with the headbutt, Europe. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to appreciate those things, because when you see someone that's really getting after it, you have to forget about your old life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to surround your people with people like Jaron, who sees the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like, and that are really trying to, you're really getting after your goals, brother. You know what I mean? Like, and if ain't nobody else gonna tell you, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? I give you flowers while you're here. You can smell it, my nigga. You feel me? Like, it pushes me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I really appreciate that, though.
It's the thing that I appreciate about the book and this conversation, man, is the people who we'll never meet that it impacts. You know what I mean? And even if that's one person, like, it's, again, I wish I was 24 and somebody had said, "Hey, bro, read Richest Man of Babylon." But, you know,
I've had that opportunity.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you are too busy, and let's say 24, right? 24, right? Facebook just got popping. You see what I'm saying? Like, ain't no Snapchat, ain't no Instagram. There is no social media. It is straight streets and what you see outside and what you doing this weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You at the mall, you trying to, this nigga at True Religion, I'm about to go buy about 5-6 pairs of these. Fuck you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, what are you talking about, man? Like, we have to, as a people, learn how to grow up. You know what I mean? Like, and God bless my Uncle Daryl, right? I really didn't understand, and so Uncle Daryl died a couple years ago. Not too long ago, you know, I had a couple of deaths in the family, right? So I go to Raleigh, North Carolina, go see my Aunt Laverne, and my cousin Daryl, Uncle Daryl's son, passed away. And, you know, I thought Aunt Laverne stayed in the same house. No, she done moved up. He took care of his family.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the right now. Yeah. It's about what happens when I'm gone. What will my family be able to do when I leave them?
I'll tell you a story. My maternal grandfather, my paternal grandfather was a mechanic. You know, he had 4 kids. You know, very rugged man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Him and my grandmother. But when he, kind of like most black men during those times, you know, not as, I guess, connected with the financial systems and the banks as his white counterparts.
Gotcha.
But nevertheless, when he died, he had left my grandmother like $25,000 in cash to pay for the funeral.
Okay.
And so that in this time where funerals bankrupt families and like set families apart, for him, and back in the, you know, in the late 1990s, for him to kind of just still be thinking about his family even by the time he's gone, and understand that this money over here is, this money, I'm not spending this money alive.
Right.
This money right here is strictly for when I'm gone. To have that discipline and not touch it, and to also kind of set your family up and to think, you know, have that forward thinking, is something that, you know, I admired about it when my mother had told me that story. But again, yeah, it's one of those things where, like I said, man, let's jump into the last question, and then we go
Yeah, let's say less. Yeah.
The last question is simple, man. It's who else would you recommend this book to, man?
Anybody who is financially stuck.
Yeah.
Who understands that they want more out of life. May have done the Cash App flip, give me 100 and I'm gonna turn it into 10,000. Those people, like legit, there is no such thing as the get rich quick scheme.
Even with, and I don't even mean to cut you off, the guy, I can't remember his name, and I wish I had Sam Friedman, or it was some, I can't remember his name. And I'll follow up with it later on, but some like multi-millionaire white guy, CEO tech guy from the Bay, who was like, he had some money.
Yeah.
Sam Friedman, it was something like that. I wish I need to hire a fact checker. Can you pull it up real quick? Sam, but anyway, he ultimately kind of has scammed his way to millions of dollars and was like he had celebrity backing.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like, bro, scamming I've never heard of a billionaire who just scammed his way to success, and people can have their opinions about certain billionaires and certain other individuals in the space.
I'm pretty sure that there's some things that
there's loopholes that have happened. Of course.
Some loopholes, you know what I mean?
But, even the ideology of, $10 to $10,000, that.
But it's just like little things, like you bury a family member on the plot of land that you own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And guess what? Tax free.
You said to anybody who is
just feels financially stuck. Like we have to, and myself included, take those less risky challenges and do what we know. Right? It's not about buying a $500 masterclass on somebody. The only difference between you and that $500 masterclass is someone actually went and sat down and did their research and did their studies and can now sell it to you for what they feel they value as their time invested into doing all the research, right? So that's where it ties into that, right? Like you just want to be lazy. You don't want to go read this book. You don't want to sit here and stay up till 2, 3 in the morning doing a YouTube deep dive on something, on a crash course on your own. Like there's so much to learn out in this world, and we have to go seek that knowledge ourselves. We can't allow someone else to dictate what information we get without looking at the good and the bad side of it.
Yeah. Ultimately, what it goes back to, man, is that you can sit out instead of spending the $500 on the masterclass. You can spend the $100 on the consultation with a certified professional accountant.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Someone that is financial literacy that has
somebody who had to get licenses and had to sit down and take tests in order to even be required to give you financial advice. It goes back to that. Oh, I can just find it on the internet. And
it's a shortcut.
It is.
That's what it is. Like you cut corners.
That's why I am so heavy into fitness, because you can. But from a natural standpoint, you can't really cut yourself.
Steroids.
In order to really get the effects, you have to really put that work in. You have to
put that work in.
Both in the gym, in the kitchen, and and so it's a holistic thing. And so personal finances is a holistic approach. It just can't be, well, it's just my money. It's like, no, what's your spending habits outside? Like what do you eat? How frequently and consistently do you eat? It's an entire life commitment.
But guess what? Those financial burdens that you think are financial burdens aren't. Those are investments.
Yeah.
You can't, check this out, right? We've been talking about this 10% the whole time, right?
We have.
Guess what? That 10% goes to that.
Yeah.
That ties into all of that. That extra, I need to pay this guy this. Guess what? That comes out your 10%. That is an investment.
Yeah.
That, I need to eat right and I have to spend this much on groceries. Guess what? That is an investment. Like it ties into all of that.
It's a form of the controlling the expenditures.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that was one of the things that I had to do at a young age, or most recently, is sit down, write out all the debts, write out all the monthly expenses, call everybody who I owe, come up with
a payment plan. Exactly.
And just really had to be very intentional with it. Quickly, I would recommend this book to APS, Atlanta Public Schools, or even JPS, Jackson Public Schools. But I feel like books like this should be a reading requirement. And also, too, I'm going to probably look into possibly seeing if this can be turned into like a short film or films in general. Because like the storylines are just they're so.
But the problem I have with books and films, right? How many books have you actually seen true to film?
While that's true, those pages are like 500, 600 pages. These are.
We've had this conversation. If you want to hide something from a nigga, where you put it?
You put it in a book, but cover to cover is not exposing it.
Exactly.
Books, so
you see what I'm saying? So like that whole film shit, like they hide important information just to make it entertaining.
Yeah.
That's where the propaganda comes into. You know what I mean? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what I'm saying is if you want the truth, you have to go and read it for yourself. You can't have me and Jay up here trying to explain to you like, hey, like this book is what, 106 pages?
Yeah, you can definitely knock it out at your lunch break.
114. This is a day read. I've read this book I think my fourth time because I just wanted to tap in again with you. Bought you the book, you know what I mean? It was on sale, you know what I mean? Like, I think we spent $14 on 2 books. You know what I mean? Like, investment.
Yeah.
This is way less than my 10% I'm saving. You know what I mean? Like, this is a good investment, not only to the mental, but to what Jay has going on with this podcast here. Like, you have to take time out to appreciate a little bit of life, right? Like a little bit of growth, right? And we see it with Jay doing Cover2Cover Podcast, and we can appreciate what he's trying to do, his narrative he's trying to push, but it doesn't ultimately fall on him. He's giving you some tools to where, hey, you should go look into this.
Yeah.
You have to go do the research on your own.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, yeah, man, I feel like we're going to make some millionaires out of this episode.
No, for sure, brother. We're going to make you one, for sure. Like, you, and another thing, one more thing that I'll let it go, right? Forgive me, it is the Don, but maybe not. We have to start supporting ours more than we want to, right? Like, it has to be a necessity.
Yeah.
We have to do this, right? Like, you told me that you were doing this. Oh, shit, I'll jump on this.
Yeah.
Oh, you bullshit. No, nigga, like, what's up? Like, I got a book for you. You know what I mean? Like, we're not even talking about it, right? Like, you got the Art of War sitting at your house. You ain't even tapped into that yet. You know what I mean? Sun Tzu's like, what do you want to do? 48 Laws of Power, another one. Like, I can't wait till I see an episode when someone sits down with you with the Bible.
Well, the thing is like they're gonna have to pick a certain book.
Man,
from the Bible.
hey, but that's okay. There's books.
I mean, listen, bro. So I do have plans on having some clergymen.
But it doesn't even have to just tap into that though. Like I really just want our people to understand the importance of not only reading but just building and supporting one another, right?
Yeah.
Like and what you're doing here is phenomenal.
I appreciate you, my guy.
Come on, man.
I appreciate you, yo. You need to go ahead and tap in with my boy. Call_Chip. Is that the IG?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have him
call
drop it down.
me_. He gonna tag you. Don't worry about it. I don't do nothing but put fly stuff on. So everything I talked about is contradictory to what I actually got going on in life.
My man's a culinary genius, man. He's a culinary genius. You need to tap in. He done cooked with the best of them, huh?
I have. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, yeah, man. It's again, man. I appreciate you blessing the podcast with this book. Blessing us with your presence, blessing us with your knowledge.
Thank you for having me, bro.
I'm going to have you back on here again. So it's 2025 talk, so don't rush me.
Hey,
but
don't worry. I already got a book lined up, man. You know, we tapped in.
But most definitely, man. Anything else you want to give the audience before we going out of here, man?
Man, I just look like this. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we really get to it. You feel me? Like,
you sure about this one?
This a real Cleveland nigga. Hey, look, check this out. I'm through and through. I'm going to stick to mine. You know what I mean? But no, seriously, on the more serious tip, though, you know what I mean? There is a ton of information out there. Do the research on your own. Put the fear to the back and go for it. Just go for it. Try and fail. Don't be scared not to try at all. You will lose.
I appreciate you, my guy.
My G, man. I appreciate you, man. Palms over here sweaty, man. I've been drinking all day, man. Y'all check the score of the game.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Let me go ahead and... This has been another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast, man. Let me go ahead and get everybody home safely. I appreciate you guys per usual. Thank you for tapping in, and we will see you guys on the next episode.
My bruh.